All right, good evening, nerds around the world, and this is welcome to episode 115 of the Nerds Unite as One podcast. I am your host, Paul English, and like always, we have a terrific show for you, as well as a great panel that I'm going to introduce to you, beginning with our returning Mr. Colton Hunt. How are you, sir?
Hey everyone, I'm glad to be here. I'm looking forward to our topic tonight. I think it'll be fun.
Most certainly will. Mike Gulick from Geek Salad is here and in the mood for this. Mike, what's going on?
Not much, just going over to the dark side at the moment.
He's got the atmosphere set up, people. He is not messing around today. And take a look who we got joining us. We got two people who have not been here in God knows how long. It is such a pleasure to have them back. Eric, what's up, my friend? Eric Mickelson is here.
Yeah, not much. Just things have been very busy on Mondays, mostly just random things happening all the time. But I'm glad to be back on the show, and this is a very fun topic.
Yes, indeed. We're happy to have you. And also back with us, we're happy to have him, our boy from Philadelphia. It is Avi. What is up, my friend?
Not much. Wait, what do you mean about not being here in a while? I was here for the Spider-Man hangout like last month.
It felt like a while. It was still a month ago. Okay, you haven't been here in a month.
Okay, fine. And before that, it was like half a year. So yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, guys. So, for this episode, we are going to be keeping up the interrogation theme from last week's show, except instead of video games, we're going to be interrogating each other on movies, particularly our favorite guilty pleasure movies. Now, a long time ago, this is, I believe, back in episode 13, we did do a countdown of our top 10 favorite guilty pleasures. Some of us did, some of us were not here for it, but we kind of gave some details as to like why our number one was so. So for this episode, we're going to get into some more detail. Obviously, you're going to hear. Actually, I think I was the only one who was on that episode. I don't think any of you were in on that.
I wasn't here until the underrated episode, which was like, what,
Yeah.
25 episomes later, episode 25 or something like that.
Maybe, I don't know. So I think I might have been the only person here who remembered that. So this is familiar territory for myself only. Only I remember that. So the rest of you, this is brand new territory. Okay. So yes, we're going to be interrogating each other on our favorite guilty pleasure movie. Guilty pleasures, are movies that we love, even though we know they suck. But we love them anyway. Who cares? So let's not waste time. Let's jump right in. So y'all know what to do. So starting with Avi and going from to right, everyone reveal to the audience what is your favorite guilty pleasure movie.
The movie I picked for my favorite guilty pleasure is Ghostbusters from last year, and I already know controversial topic. Yeah. Should I explain why?
Not yet.
Yeah, I like understand.
Not yet.
Oh,
Not yet, Avi.
Not yet.
Okay.
Wait for the interrogation to start. It hasn't begun yet.
Okay.
Colton?
My guilty pleasure is the very first Resident Evil movie from Paul W.S. Anderson.
Eric?
Sticking with the video game movie theme, we've got I'm trying to load it here, the Warcraft movie, which, if you've ever seen the poster, you already know it's a train wreck starting from there.
Mike?
Mine is Smart Sharks in Deep Blue Sea.
Okay, that tops it.
And my movie is the greatest friggin' commercial ever made, Space Jam.
The greatest commercial? I'm sorry, but Transformers, the animated movie, is the better commercial there.
The Lego movie?
Given that I've not seen it, I'm still defending this. Okay, guys, so now that we know it, let's jump right in. Okay, Avi, you're up first. Are you prepared to be grilled?
Yeah, sure.
Up first, what is your first question?
My first question, it's an easy one. What did you like most about this movie?
Kate McKinnon. Just her overall. Normally, I hate when a character's just their main character is they're quirky, but like it's Kate McKinnon, so it works. And just her whole comic relief, that just is why I like it the most, just because Kate McKinnon makes this movie for me, and a few other things, but her mainly.
Okay, that's a good answer. Cool.
Eric, you're up.
Let's see. I was trying to think. So, what do you think of the humor in this movie? Because I don't know how to exactly compare it to the original Ghostbusters. I haven't seen the original, but I know a lot of people were claim the humor in this movie was a little too childish or too on the nose at times.
Oh, stop. Eric, you haven't seen the original Ghostbusters?
I haven't. I just haven't had time.
It's fine.
Let Eric finish his question.
Take it and run! God damn you, run!
Anyway, you were saying.
Let him have it.
Yeah, the humor is like, I guess, more childish than all three movies try to like ad lib, but this is way more, like the typical ad lib that goes on way too long. So the humor is that. How I put it is, I know it's all bad. Like, it is the definition of a guilty pleasure. Like, the humor is like so just dumb, but I like it because how just over the top it is, and it treats it more like a cartoon, which is why I liked it the most. It's like, yeah.
That's a fair point.
It goes way too cartoony, yeah, and that's why I like it.
Mike.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you mentioned that Kate McKinnon was one of your favorite characters in it. What was your favorite moment in the movie? Is there like a particular moment that stands out as like that was just a really cool moment?
Probably the only like joke that really, like, from what I hear, that like everyone really liked, it was who's seen the movie first of all? Okay.
I love it, actually.
It's the scene where they need to like rent out the apartment, they need to like rent out the building or whatever to bust ghosts, and the lady's like telling her how much it costs, and then Kristen Wiig just says really deadpan like, "Go to hell," and that's the joke. Because it was like unexpected and it was like really deadpan. It was great. So that's probably my favorite joke. I like Chris Hemsworth at the whole, if we're going like a specific like moment type thing, just his like goofiness, kind of in the similar way of Kate McKinnon.
All right, cool.
Kate McKinnon was awesome, I have to admit.
Yeah, honestly, I was about to say Chris Hemsworth was probably my favorite part of it, purely just because I had recently rewatched one of the Marvel movie. I forget what Marvel movie I watched recently, but I just every time I saw him, I was just imagining Thor in that exact same situation.
You know, Thor actually probably would react almost the same way, or
Exactly. That's way great.
Okay. Okay. So my first question would be, have you seen the original Ghostbusters? And if so, how does it compare? How does this remake or this reboot compare in terms of like tone of the film, the quality of it, as to the original?
I'm pretty sure I've seen the original too. The tone, yeah, this is way, from what I remember, this is way lighter, and yeah, just way more cartoony and over the top, and I like it for that. Comparably, I honestly, unpopular opinion, I think all three of the movies are just fine. I know like Ghostbusters was a big thing, and I think if you live in Chicago, it's like a bigger thing, but yeah, I like all three of them are fine. I really, if I had to rank them, they'd probably all be like equal. Very just different, whether the new one is more cartoony and the old ones is more, I guess, realistic, I guess you could say. I don't know. Yeah, that's how they compare tonally. And as just movies, I think they're all probably equal.
That would definitely be an unpopular opinion. I can say that for sure. Okay.
Well, I would definitely rank the new one over Ghostbusters 2, because with Ghostbusters 2, we just have a very weird time, and with the original Ghostbusters, it's really, the cast makes the movie, there's no denying that, but you can also tell they're kind of restricted by the time, so to speak, regarding some of their effects and everything.
The effects in the original
Ghostbusters. What?
I think the effects, at least for the time, are better in the original than the new ones, at least for the time.
Yeah, more or less, but I feel like they were able to do more in the original. Well, sorry, it's your turn.
No, it's fine. That's all I was going to say.
Colton, I have a next question.
My next question. Let's see here. What do you think of the new Ghostbusters overall? Do you think they have a good team dynamic and good chemistry with each other?
Yeah, I think they have. Maybe not as good as the original, but yeah, I think they had good chemistry. There were a few points where it felt like it just wasn't like when you see this in the trailer and they all say like "let's go" at the same time, like when they're getting ready to defeat the ghost or whatever. You see it in like the trailer. They all like say something at the same time. They're like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna start." So there are points like that where I think it was kind of like not good, but yeah, overall they have good chemistry.
Yeah. Right. To follow up on that, what'd you think of Leslie Jones?
Leslie Jones was much better in the movie than it made her look in the trailer. Like, she was probably my favorite behind Kate McKinnon. Because in the trailer, it just made her look like, oh, she's going to be yelling all her lines. And there are points where it does that. Also, I feel in the movie, they kind of restrained her a little bit. Like, they felt like she had a few big freakouts. But, like, I felt like she was more restrained. I don't know if that's just me, but I felt like they kind of restrained her a little bit. Like, people wouldn't have liked her. So they kind of didn't give her as much. But yeah, she was still my favorite besides McKinnon. She was my favorite besides McKinnon.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, I think my favorite part of her was probably when she like has that giant green ghost like hanging on her shoulders, and she's like very calmly telling everyone to just not piss off. That was actually pretty. That actually had me laughing throughout that moment.
I mean, there are a few like groaners or jokes where it's like someone's like taking a selfie because they see the ghost or whatever. It's like there's some dumb stuff in there, but overall it's fun. I like it.
I don't know. I know some people that would do that.
All right, hold on a minute. We got a troll incoming.
Oh no.
You try any bullshit, Chris, you're banned. I'm gonna eject you. Colton not even giving him a chance.
Nope.
His video isn't even on.
You should be ashamed of yourselves! Guilty pleasures, motherfuckers!
Yeah, kick control.
Take him out as an admin.
Fucking troll, for God's sake. I don't know if I'm going to bring him back for next week's episode.
Trolled by an admin.
Okay, Eric, your next question would be if you have one?
Oh, well, you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I was trying to try and remember the villain's motives, because I remember coming out of that movie like, where did that villain come from? 'Cause, like, what did you think of him? Because all I remember is he was really angry that he worked for the hotel and just kind of formed like a ghost generator or something in the basement.
Yeah, it's not good. He's much better when he's Chris Hemsworth.
I agree with that.
Because that's like likable. Like, I don't even know what his. Yeah, I don't know what his motives were. He was kind of just like, I hate the Ghostbusters or whatever. There was like no reason why he did. I don't know if they were like rude to him. He's just like, I don't like you, and then he's like, I'm gonna fight you or whatever. Yeah. There was no reason to him, and he was much better as Chris Hemsworth. So that's an actual like negative. Like, I can't defend that.
Classic villain of the week.
He's probably one of the worst villains like ever, because there is actually like no reason why he is a villain.
Yeah, I was like hoping that, because you like the movie, I was like, okay, maybe he knows something that I don't remember. It's like, okay.
Maybe he's supposed to be like maybe it's like kind of like a slant at like people who were hating on the movie beforehand. Like, is he supposed to be like a troll? Like, I didn't like understand what his.
Yeah, because they definitely commented on that a lot during the movie.
Was. They did have that YouTube joke where it's like, oh, these people think this is fake. Yeah, I don't know what his motives were. That's an actual bad thing.
All right, Mike, your next question is?
Yeah, this is kind of regarding the post-credit sequence. If they did actually eventually get around to doing a sequel, which they probably aren't, but do you think it would have? Do you think they would have gone with that Zool and done like a kind of a redo of the first Ghostbusters villain, or do you think they would have gone? That was just a kind of a nod, and they would have gone off and done a different thing.
Well, the thing is, this might be taking a way around the question, but Dan Aykroyd's really mad at Paul Feig. He put him on like blast. So they might not even do the Zool thing because that's probably, I don't know whose idea that would have been if that would have been Feig. Whatever.
Well, yeah, Dan Aykroyd should shut his mouth more often though.
Like it made its money back. No, actually I don't know if it did, but like he's way to throw everyone under the bus.
Yeah.
I swear from the second the movie came out to like now, like all the cast and everyone has just been throwing everyone else under the bus.
Oh no, it definitely made its money back actually.
Well, I don't know. It needs to double its budget, and there's marketing budget, and there's this whole thing. Like
Right. Plus, there's a lot of negative publicity around it when it first came out.
I mean,
so
if it makes its money back, the Emoji movie had negative publicity. It made its money back.
I don't remember what all the controversy was about, to be honest.
The controversy was that it's women. Like, I agree the trailer was bad, but, like, I don't know. Everyone was always going, like, hyperbole. That's the worst trailer ever. And I don't know. The movie turned out fine.
Yeah.
I think it was partially because Sony just kept shooting themselves in the foot with the way they handled everything.
You know what annoyed me? People are going to be like, oh, it's just the reboot, and I hate more, like, things based on properties. Everyone wanted Ghostbusters 3 with 70-year-old Bill Murray, so I don't, like... I never understood it, but...
Oh, man, that's different.
That's different. He's 70 and doesn't want to be in Ghostbusters 3. Yeah, I don't know. People are crazy.
So my next question, this is going to be my last one, and this is the big one. What would you say to those who have still refused to see the movie, either because they think it's an insult to the original, or they, I don't know, maybe they are sexist, they don't think women should be taking up this mantle, or for someone like me who just heard from people I trust that it just wasn't a funny movie, which is why I still haven't seen it, because I've heard it wasn't funny. What would you say to them? What would you say?
Let's see. What was the first part of the question? What was the first reason people? Oh, the reboots. Okay.
The original.
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't know if people know this because the same thing happened with the Emoji Movie. To bring this up, reboots and sequels and things just based on things are being made every week. So I don't know why some things are different. Ghostbusters is such a sacred property. This is what I don't get. People are treating Ghostbusters as the most sacred thing ever when there's only like one movie they like. They like the cartoon, I guess, but it's not in like the lore of things. It's not the most sacred thing, and you can't ever remake it ever. That's the reason why I didn't understand why people were getting so angry about it. The movie, if you like sort of the over-the-top cartoony stuff, it got mixed reviews. If you like the sort of over-the-top cartoony stuff, I'd recommend that. If you don't like it because it's women, there's no changing your opinion. Yeah, so if you like the over-the-top cartoony thing, then yeah. If you're just not watching it because you thought the trailer was bad, well, there are good movies based on bad trailers, like Paddington or something. And if you didn't like it because of a reboot or whatever, there are reboots and sequels being made every week, and people wanted a Ghostbusters 3, and that's the sequel. What's the difference? So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That makes sense.
I mean, on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 73% critic rating. So I mean, it wasn't all that negatively reviewed. It is, it is fresh.
What's the average rating? Because that's what I go by. Not the percent of people who liked it, but what the average rating they gave it. I think it's lower. If you're on the desktop version, you could see.
Average rating 6.5.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's a passing grade.
I just don't like people who treat Rotten Tomatoes as like gospel. Like.
Yeah.
It's just a quick reference to see did people generally like it or not, but yeah.
Yeah, that's just a bunch of critics. It's not like Rotten Tomatoes isn't like a person saying this is what I thought. People like see 73%, like okay, that means 7. That means it was a 73 out of 100.
Yeah,
but we don't need to get into how Rotten Tomatoes is.
No.
We have The Dark Knight Rises to thank for the whole people taking Rotten Tomatoes more seriously than they should the business.
Yeah, I don't know if I trust the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes either, though, because
I mean, even
I
the
think-
audience score, it's not like it's slightly negative. It's a 52.
well, it's 50-50, but I'm kind of interested in exactly how many of people that that voted for that one actually saw the movie.
Well, also
Yeah.
the average rating for audience is a 3.1 out of 5, so I guess that's passing.
Yeah.
They're kind of similar because that would equal a 6.2 out of 10, where the critics would equal a 6 point, where the critics is a 6.5. So it's kind of equal. That's why you look at the average ratings and not the percent. Yeah, so that's, I guess, my thoughts.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Colton, any other questions?
And I'm good.
Eric?
Oh, I was just gonna make a comment. Yeah, generally, like on the audience score thing, I generally don't like to trust those either, because something I'll get into later. Certain movie I like, most of the IMDb ratings are like
Oh, don't go
80% 10 out of 10s.
don't go with
Yeah, it
IMDb.
also
Like, no,
depends
no,
the
no, no,
audience.
no.
It also depends. Of course, like the audience is gonna like something they're a fan of or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, IMDb hasn't been a good like aggregator of scores for at least 20 years.
I'm gonna go on one like 10-second side topic. The funniest IMDb score is Uwe Loves. It's like a 7.2 out of 10. It's like one of the biggest box office bombs ever, because apparently the director of the movie just made like thousands of fake accounts to just keep upvoting at 10 to, I guess, try to get a sequel. So it's at a 7. It's at like a 7.2 out of 10.
Which is why you never trust the ratings on IMDb anymore.
Nope. Oh no, now it's down to a 6.4. But yeah.
Mike, any other questions?
Yeah, just one quick question. Paul Feig is known for directing R-rated comedies. Do you think this movie would have been better as R-rated?
I think R-rated is his specialty. I've seen Spy, and I saw parts of Bridesmaid. He did The Heat. Did he do one other?
I think so.
Or was that Ghostbusters? Whatever. Yeah, I think he does work better with rated R. Yeah, Spy, because I really enjoyed Spy. I liked Spy more than I liked Ghostbusters. My thoughts are Ghostbusters and Bridesmaid would probably be similar if I saw them both.
He did The Heat as well.
Oh, I thought I mentioned The Heat. Did I say Heat? That's a different movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did
Bad Teacher.
Unaccompanied Minors. Okay, I haven't seen that either. But yeah, I think he does work better with R-rated, because Unaccompanied Minors is PG and it didn't get good reviews. Yeah, so I think he does work better with rated R. I don't really know the difference because it's not like raunchy rated R. At least Spy isn't that raunchy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really. I guess I don't think it matters. I don't think the rating matters, actually. I think it's just if it's a good movie, it's a good movie.
Fair enough.
All right.
Ghostbusters just had too big of a hole to dig out of with all the negative backlash beforehand. That's what we see a lot of times.
All right. Moving on. All right, Colton, you are up. Are you prepared?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Avi, you're up first. What is your first question for Colton regarding his pick?
Okay, so Resident Evil.
Yes.
My main question is, because I watched this in September when I was watching just 30 bad movies, and it was more on that upper scale though, so don't worry, it wasn't as bad. My main question is, how well does it follow the source material of the game?
I have actually only played and finished Resident Evil 4, which came out like I think way after this movie or something, like a few years later. But I know that this movie is more or less just a big fat in-name only adaptation. You know, none of the characters from the movie, or none of the characters from the game are in this film. I mean, they appear in later films, sort of. They're more in-name adaptations, in-name only adaptations. Also, it's like it just basically has stuff you would recognize from the games. You have the Umbrella Corporation, you got zombies, you got liquors, that sort of stuff. That's about all the similarities there are to it. However, given how I never played the games, I was able to more or less just go in with I was basically able to just go in and enjoy and just watch it without having to compare it to the source or anything like that. I know that like, in hindsight, I know that this movie is kind of also sort of a tease towards what the actual games were like when it starts out. The heroes are in a mansion which is where the original game took place, and before they go into a high-tech facility located underneath the mansion, which I actually found to be kind of an interesting Easter egg / update of the scenario, so to speak. But yeah, as far as source material goes, it's basically just a name only.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Eric.
So, what specifically about the movie was it that you enjoyed, especially since you haven't played many of the Resident Evil games? Obviously, you don't have like that brand loyalty type thing.
What I like about it is that, at least in the first movie, I liked how Paul W. S. Anderson established atmosphere, actually. It really felt like, the stakes were high for our heroes. Like, when they go down there, at first, it looks like, when they go down there, the hive, it looks appropriately ominous. We don't know. We already saw how people, the virus got spread, how people died, but then once our heroes go down there, it's quiet. One of those too quiet sort of scenarios. And though the characters aren't anything remarkable, they have enough competence and likability to them that you want to see them get out. And the fact that they're like miles underground made for a pretty good source of tension to it. Like, I was it felt legitimately, like I said, ominous, so to speak, that they were down there. They only had a short span of time to escape. And whenever they died, actually, really felt for them, actually, because, like I said, the movie, compared to most horror movies where characters will act like idiots or something like that, while there were some dumb mistakes made in this movie, the cast largely stays, like I said, they're largely they're more competent than your usual horror movie characters, so you want to see them making it out alive. And as the characters start to die, it doesn't feel like a case of, well, and then this guy died, and then that guy died. It's, like I said, I actually really cared about it. And I thought the action, this is before Paul W. S. Anderson was given the keys to the kingdom and went totally off the rails. The action was a lot more restrained, and it's very good survival horror, I would say. And I really love how it ends. It's spoiler warning or whatever, but when the movie gets to the ending and we see Alice walking into a deserted area, you have no idea what happened. All we know is that it's something bad. And as she cocks the shotgun and the camera slowly zooms out to show Raccoon City's been basically totally wrecked, it's a very good way. And again, another appropriately ominous sort of thing. I just loved its atmosphere, and I wished it was more replicated in the later films.
All right. I guess those last two comments kind of answer my other question there, is having of, I know, like, I've only heard things about the more recent two films, and just that the whole series is just like, oh, it's so bad, so awful, and people just bashing it. I didn't know how this one compared to those.
Yeah, it's like, I would say Apocalypse also, the second one is also kind of good, but after that, it's like Paul W. S. Anderson just says, fuck continuity and everything, just goes, and basically just does whatever the hell he wanted. It's like one YouTuber basically said the Resident Evil franchise just became a love letter to his wife, Mila Jovovich, who plays the main character.
Okay, Mike?
Well, first off, you're not the only one that loves it. And in fact, I also love the second one. But speaking of Mila Jovovich, what did you think of her performance in this one? She's kind of out of her depth in the most in this one. They kind of needlessly ganged her up in the later movies. But this one, what did you think?
It's more of a hindsight thing, but I like how in this movie, compared to the others, when we first meet Alice, she's pretty much the audience avatar, blank slate sort of thing, where she has no idea what's going on. She's basically there to ask questions, but she does a good job playing that. She has the vulnerability of someone that's basically had their memories temporarily erased. And let's see what else. Like when the characters go into are stuck in the laser hole room and people start dying, and when one shade is the black guy, the black leader of the group, he's the last one to die, and she like covers her face as she sees his body falling apart. I'm like, you really did feel like she actually was horrified at seeing him getting killed, along with everybody else. But as the film progressed, she also showed that she did have signs of a badass in her as the film continued, just leading up to like when she just straight up looks at her boyfriend after he's been transformed into a zombie, and then she just casually says, "I'm missing you already," and then puts an axe in his face. And then towards the ending, also, I liked once Matt is starting to transform due to the liquor scratching him. She says, "You're infected, but don't worry, I'm not going to lose you too." I really felt like she cared about him. And it's like this movie really made Alice into a relatable, likable sort of person compared to her being very more standoffish in the later films.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, well, Mike actually asked my question, so I'm struggling to think of a new one. And I guess the only one I can think of would be this, Colton. Aside from everything that you mentioned when it came to obvious question, what else do you think it is about this movie, or rather, what do you think this movie has that makes it, in your book, pretty good, whereas the rest of them, in your opinion, are just suck?
What makes this movie good is that, well, first off, Paul W.S. Anderson did not have the keys to the kingdom yet, so he had to stay relatively restrained. This was also like the year 2000, so they couldn't do as many bombastic stunts as they could in, 2002? Okay. Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, it was 2002, so they obviously could only do so much regarding stunt work. So that also kept the movie very constrained. Like I said, this movie really does try to make you want to care about the characters in question. If they're not all. Some people, yeah, there is some cannon fodder at the start, but it also after the red shirts are dealt with, the rest of the cast does make sincere efforts to try and stay alive. They do. It doesn't feel like they're just there to just get the axe or whatever. And that was like a problem the later movies in the series started to deal with. Like Apocalypse, it was okay. It was still relatively good with its characters, but then Extinction up is when you just flat out the franchise just flat out became the Alice show. You would be lucky to see if any characters came back for another movie, they would either die or just then be dropped and not be, or either just be suffer like drops in their importance, so to speak. Like Jill is there. Jill appears in Resident Evil Apocalypse and is dropped from Resident Evil Extinction. Then she comes back for a cameo in Afterlife. Then she's back in full force in Retribution. And then she is just dropped from the final chapter with absolutely no explanation. And the same thing happened to Wesker, where he's in Extinction. He's like the big bad, but then he starts dropping in importance with each sequel, so to speak. And same thing also happened to Chris. Like I said, I just felt like Paul W.S. just only cared about making Alice look good at the expense of everybody else as the franchise continued. And,
so in other words, he took a Michael Bay route, except instead of explosions, he had a fetish for Alice.
Yeah, a fetish for his wife, so yeah.
Hey, if you're going
to... You can defend that. I'm like, well, it's my wife. Of course I have a fetish for her, as opposed to... You can't defend Michael Bay's explosion fetish.
Yeah, why do you think Helena Bonham Carter had appeared in all of Tim Burton's movies?
Good point. The funny thing about the first Resident Evil movie is that it's the only one where Mila Jovovich actually shares billing. It's Mila Jovovich and Michelle Rodriguez. Not saying Michelle Rodriguez, she was also great to have around also. She was probably the only other person that was allowed to sort of be on Alice's level. Well, but then again, in the first two movies, they were both on the same. She and Alice were both on the same footing, since it wasn't about one person. It was just about everybody trying to make it out alive. And despite some dodgy, despite the CGI being a tad dodgy in some respects, I actually thought that kind of added to some of the creepy factor in some of the things. Like the liquors despite the fact that the liquors look better in the later films, the liquor in the 2002 movie actually looks more scary and what have you. It's just a case of when you have less to work with, you sometimes work harder. Whereas when you have everything you need at your fingertips, you can sometimes lose sight of what you used to achieve your goals originally.
Okay. Avi, anything else?
Yeah, I'm going to take a kind of... This might be cheating. I want to say, if it wasn't for Paul W.S. Anderson, who would you want to direct a Resident Evil movie?
Well, I would probably say George Romero, only because he directed the commercial for Resident Evil 2, and it looked like it could have been pretty sweet, actually. And George Romero, he already knew he already had a field in the zombie era, so I think he could have done a good job I heard that his script was kind of iffy though, because apparently they did admit one time he wasn't one time attached to doing one of the Resident Evil films, I think. But if we're talking just directing, I think he could have done a good job. He knows his way around suspense. He knows how to. He's the granddaddy of zombie movies. He knows what he was doing.
I bet Caleb would have said, "I want Christopher Nolan to direct it."
Actually, I wouldn't mind James Wan doing a Resident Evil movie.
Yeah. He's made his mark in the horror field, I'd say. So I wouldn't mind him doing it too.
All right, Eric, do you have another question?
I pretty much got all my questions asked. I did find one interesting thing, though, that Colton, you're not alone in that being a guilty pleasure for you, because apparently, James Cameron's biggest guilty pleasure is also Resident Evil.
Wow. Interesting. Where'd you read that?
Oh, I was just like looking. I looked up each of these films just briefly on Wikipedia to see if there's anything I could get about the plot or just critical reception real quick, just if I hadn't seen the movie. And that was like that was one of the points in the bottom, and then another point was how it's opposite end of the spectrum, one of Roger Ebert's most hated movies.
Yeah, I remember when he reviewed Resident Evil Apocalypse, he straight up said, "Parents, if you come across anybody that likes this movie, do not let them date your children."
Wow. Yeah, Ebert was the best.
Mike, anything else?
I guess, was there one specific thing that most stood out as disappointing you about the movie? I know. Go ahead.
If there's anything disappointing about the movie, I'd probably say the fact that it was so in name only, but it was the fact that it was in name only, and that was also unapologetically cliched. I won't give away everything. Well, I gotta give away a lot of stuff. So hey, what the hell?
You gave away the ending, so
yeah, we got Alice. She has her convenient amnesia and everything like that. They put that very straight, and then her boyfriend, he's revealed to be the true traitor amongst the group. And when he's exposed, he just points his gun at the heroes, and he actually goes. I'm like, what? I'm like, they're just playing this so it's being done so straight that I would hate it more if it wasn't for the fact that I actually cared. If it wasn't for the fact since I cared about what was going on, I could let the fact that this was a giant cliche storm go. But I also would say that the in-name only aspect can hurt it for fans of the game in general. If only because I felt like they could have maybe attempted to tie it into the story later, into the actual canon of the games later on. Like I said, Alice is in when the movie ends. Alice is in Raccoon City, which is the setting for Resident Evil 2, the video game / Resident Evil Nemesis, which they made a weird hybrid of in Resident Evil Apocalypse. So I'm saying maybe she could have, instead of Alice being by herself, she could have maybe run into Leon or something like that. Since that's what happens with Claire in the games. And if I had to say anything else about this movie that was kind of disappointing, maybe it was because maybe the ending is a tad confusing because, after Alice has been captured, Dr. Isaac says they're reopening the hive. He wants to know what went on down there, even though I'm thinking, does this facility not have any cameras? You should be able to know what went on down there. And which leads to the whole infection getting loose in Resident Evil Apocalypse because the Umbrella Corporation are run by a bunch of idiots, and it gets even more. The Umbrella Corporation just gets increasingly dumber with each installment, especially Resident Evil, the final chapter. What do you expect? They're the evil corporation of evil, so whatever.
Yeah, I kind of wanted. I thought the premise of the Red Queen was such a unique and really cool premise that they just completely squandered.
Yeah, especially with Resident Evil 3, where they introduced the White Queen. I'm thinking, hey, more Wonderland imagery. And then they just dropped the White Queen altogether, and then the Red Queen is evil, and then the Red Queen is good, and played by Mila Jovovich's daughter, and then, yeah. It just totally went off the rails. Phaelus, YouTuber Phaelus of X Channel also member said it best. Like Resident Evil: The Final Chapter is basically only good if you have remembered when it ended the franchise, and even then that was giving the movie too much credit.
All right.
No.
You have any more questions, Paul?
No, that I got my one out of the way. All right, so let's move on. Eric, are you prepared to be grilled, my friend?
You are not prepared. Yes, I'm prepared.
Okay, Avi, you are up first.
So my main question is going to be, if someone else that wasn't a fan of the source material was to watch it, how confusing would it be? Would it just be 2 hours of who's this character, who's that character?
Honestly, I saw it in theaters a couple times, and the second time I saw it, like just because I went with different groups of friends, the second time I saw it, it was with a friend who hadn't been introduced to anything Warcraft. Like he knew like one or two of the characters, but nothing else. And he, for the most part, understood like the directions, the plot, and how things were moving forward in the story. But there are a lot of specifics like characters, locations, motivations that were kind of lost on him. And yeah, it's the sort of thing that's... This goes into one of the biggest problems of the movie, which doesn't affect me, which is it's rushing through trying to introduce you to an entire new world, entire new, like, bunch of races, tons of characters, cities, and like the first 20 minutes of the movie is, okay, we're here, now we're here, now we're here, this is this character, this is this character. And if you already know, like, how far these places are in relation to each other or what they have to do with each other, then it's perfectly fine. If you don't, it's like, why would you cut to this city if we're immediately going to the town right over, like, in the forest? What are you doing? So it's very confusing for most people who don't know about it, but plot-wise, it generally... You can generally follow the basic premise, which, by the way, I should probably get into, since I think Mike is the only one who actually knows like the basic story for Warcraft. Basically, the planet that the orcs come from is basically being, destroyed, and it's gone to complete ruin. Following this dark magic user named Gul'dan, go through a portal to the planet of Azeroth, which is where all the humans and everything are, and are basically wreaking havoc as they're trying to conquer this new world under Gul'dan's leadership. Some of the orcs, start to realize, hey, maybe this isn't, maybe he's the reason that all this stuff is sort of happening, and they form alliances with the humans there. They all join forces to try and fight back, but they find out there's evil on both Azeroth and in the Orc Society that they have to fight. Not going into spoilers, but, well, I guess I can go into spoilers later, but basically there's lots of conflict on both sides, and essentially it's orcs joining alliances with the good humans, and then there's, evil humans and evil orcs working together. It makes a lot more sense if you actually watch the movie than how I'm explaining it, but again, that's another big problem with the movie, is that it's fitting in like a full game's worth of lore and some backstory universe in a 2-hour movie.
I was confused during that entire speech, during that entire recap, man.
Yeah, no, it's a lot to take in. It's like if someone tried to explain the entirety of the trilogy of Lord of the Rings to you in like 1 minute. It's like, oh, I heard a character's name. That's cool.
All right, Colton?
All right, my question for you is, I might have explained this, and I might have just kind of gotten confused already, but
Right.
Is Warcraft it's a bit of a two-parter, but is Warcraft actually based on any one story in the Warcraft universe, or is this like kind of a Resident Evil where it was their own thing with a bunch of Easter eggs?
Yes, it is actually based on a story. So, before like the big World of Warcraft game, there were Warcraft real-time strategy games like way long ago, and this is based off of the original Warcraft game with a few creative liberties taken near the end of the story.
Okay, then would you say they did it? You think they did a good or okayish job at actually telling that story?
I think they did a pretty. I think in terms of what they were trying to do, I think they did a good job with what they were setting up. I think that they fell into the problem that the DC movies have, where they're trying to pack so much into one story that they don't end up focusing enough on one part. But there is a lot of story that they're building up. So, like the DC movies, as their universe expands and they get more movies, you can tie more parts of these movies together, and you're like, oh, okay, now this part works better with the other movies, but not sure if this one's getting a sequel. They definitely wanted one, and I wanted one, but I don't know if they're getting it.
Yeah, you never know. Stranger things have happened. I mean, the Nut Job got a sequel, so.
Oh God, don't remind me.
I saw that. I saw that actually.
Oh.
I saw your review. I'll be like, "What'd you give it? 1 star?"
I bumped it up to 1.5 out of 5, and I was just like, this movie just gave me a headache. But then I was like, at least my family liked it.
Yeah, that will happen.
It is better than the first one, but that's not saying much.
But as scatters the plot can be with like specifics, it is still it's a fun fantasy story. It's got great environments. The effects of all the CGI characters, like the orcs, they do similar motion capture type thing that the Planet of the Apes do. It's actually really good. I'd say near the same quality as that. The magic effects are amazingly good. I was honestly very surprised when I saw the movie, and it's honestly just a lot of fun, and it's just got and I just like fantasy settings as well, like that sort of genre. So I liked all the crazy over the top armor designs a lot of them had. So.
Mike?
Yeah. By the way, it may get a sequel because it made plenty of money. Budget
Actually,
of 160.
Yeah,
budget of 160. It made 433.
Yeah, I was gonna comment on that because a lot of people were saying the same thing when that came out, but a lot of the counter argument to that is, well, if you look at specifically where that came from, about 300 million of that 420 million came from China.
Yeah, but it's still money though, so that won't matter where it came from.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's the sort of thing that it like bombed in America, but it did really good everywhere else. So it's like I don't know what's gonna happen with it.
All right. As for my question, dang, I just completely blanked on it. Paul, can you go first? I gotta try and remember what my question was.
Okay. I have seen a couple movies based on like old properties that I've never seen before. Like, for example, I never saw the original Get Smart TV series, but when I watched the movie, I thought it was okay. I mean, it wasn't a great movie, any sense, but I liked it a little bit more than my parents did, who did watch the Get Smart show. They loved that, but they hated the movie. Do you think people who have never played any of the Warcraft or World of Warcraft games will like it more than those who actually have played the game, or do you think this movie was made explicitly for people who play those games?
For the most part, I'd say they probably wouldn't enjoy it as much as the people who have already played the games. Obviously, if you're one of those people, that if there's any creative liberty taken, it's awful, which there were definitely some people I knew that were like that, but in general, there's a lot of callbacks to things in the game that a lot of the people who play them got. But like I said, I did go to see the movie with a friend who hadn't played the games before, and he liked it. So, like he not only could follow the plot for the most part, but he liked it. So, I think there's enjoyment to be had for people who aren't a fan of it. But definitely, if you're a fan of it, you'll definitely like it more. And sort of like following up on what you were saying in the beginning of that question, if I'm comparing it to other movies of previously existing properties, I would say there's definitely a lot better ones out there. But in terms of video game movies, I definitely, in my opinion, think Warcraft is the best video game movie. Again, that's not saying all.
Yeah,
But then again, I haven't seen Resident Evil like Colton has, so I'll have to get my opinion on that later on.
Okay.
Okay, I remembered my question.
Oh,
Go ahead,
yes.
Mike.
I mean, you said that like a lot of it felt kind of rushed to get through that. The movie is pretty much just exactly 2 hours in length. Do you think it would have benefited from going like 2:15 or 2:30, or do you think that would have been too long?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. There actually was a lot of like Duncan Jones, the director, did actually say there was originally like an extra 45 minutes of the movie that was cut, and I definitely think if they took at least just 20 to 30 minutes of just extra world building or time to just develop some of the characters, then I think it would have greatly benefited from that, because you do care about some of the characters in this movie, but there are a lot of characters that are at play, and I feel like the main two orcs that are on the good guy side, the main villain Gul'dan and Khadgar, like one of the humans, like those like four are, in my opinion, given a pretty good amount of character development and time on screen, but I don't feel like the others really had enough material or time to go off of. So if you just had like the extra 20, 30 minutes, just building either the world or the character relationships, I felt like that would have been a good use of that.
Okay. Avi, do you have another question?
Yeah, well, first I will say it technically made its money back, and it's a break even, give or take a little bit. It probably made its money back and made like about a 50 million increase. So my main question, this is actually, I used the same question on Colton, but this is actually a better thing. Who would you want to direct a Warcraft movie? Because the director, Duncan Jones, he made two like smaller type movies. One had like a 5 million budget in Moon, and Source Code had a 32 million budget. They're all type like sort of sci-fi action fantasy type, but yeah, who would you want to direct if you could have a sequel, Ethan?
Christopher Nolan. No, that's what.
No, that's a
Channeling like your Caleb impression.
That is a good question. I haven't actually personally thought of that. I know a lot of people, if they were just asked this question, besides Christopher Nolan, they would immediately jump to Peter Jackson because he's done The Lord of the Rings. I actually would not want to see that, just because as much as I like Peter Jackson, he's already done this whole thing before, and we don't want another Hobbit situation, as much as I do enjoy the movies. And also, he focuses a little too much on special effects and creating a spectacle. And I think we already had enough of that in this movie. I'd like to see more just out of the characters in the world rather than the big effects, as much as those were very good in this movie. But I haven't personally looked enough into directors I think would be good, but
Off the top of your head.
Yeah, I haven't thought of that very much.
Okay, Colton.
Okay, so one last question.
Yeah.
So Travis Fimmel, is that how his name's pronounced? Last name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've seen him in Vikings, and he's awesome in that show. So I'm curious, how is he acting in this movie?
I'm trying to remember because I think this is the first time I had seen him. What was his name again? I'm just gonna look him up just so I get a picture reference. I remember which
He
one
played
he was.
Anduin
Lothar.
Loth.
Oh, yes, him. I thought I did an all right job. I think the main with his character, it was like he was fine. He definitely wasn't the one I really got attached to, just because I felt like he was written as a very, generic protagonist character. Like, I'm a good guy. I'm fighting for my people, sort of thing. It's like he did a fine job with it, but I don't feel like he really brought his A game. I like I said though, the people who act as the orcs, besides Garona, they all brought their A game. They did a fantastic job, and I just personally, I forget the actor's name, but I personally like the guy who plays the young wizard Khadgar in this movie. Like, I think they all did a great job. It's just the rest of the 4 main characters you see in the movie, I don't think did a great job. But like I said, those other 4 characters, they propel the movie way higher for me.
Okay, cool.
Mike, any other questions?
No, I'm pretty good.
All right. Avi,
Yeah,
did you have another one?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good.
One-
Colton,
one-
you have another?
Oh, I was gonna say one quick thing. If any of you ever get around to even just seeing a clip of this movie, if you just watch the first 20, not 20, first 30 seconds of it, after they come back in their fade from black, they start off with a little scene of narration, and then they from black show the main orc Dorotan. Even if you just see that, that's the sort of effects that I'm talking about, and it's actually amazing. The only reason I didn't think it didn't get an Oscar nomination was just because the other movies that got released that year were crazy good in effects.
What year was that? Yeah.
That was last year, 2016.
Yeah. I want to see what got nominated there.
All right. So, Mike, it is your turn to be interrogated. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, Avi, you're up first.
Okay, my main question is, so obviously the most iconic scene from Deep Blue Sea is the Sam Jackson shark scene. I won't say anything more. So everyone knows that scene, even if you haven't seen the movie like me. I'm trying to, my question mainly is there anything more than that? Is it just a lot of that sort of just, I don't know what the word is, just goofy type?
Epic deaths.
Yeah. Is that what the whole movie is?
No. I mean, there are a lot of really good deaths, but I mean, there is a good story behind it. I mean, yeah, you have to get past the point of the sharks are smart, but I mean, there's the characters are actually pretty decent in it. I mean, I particularly like Thomas Jane's character, and LL Cool J is probably one of my favorite characters in the entire movie. But I mean, the lead scientist woman, I know Stellan Skarsgård is in there briefly. I mean, yeah, Sam Jackson's death is probably the most memorable one in the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there is more to it than just really cool deaths. I mean, Michael Rappaport had a decent death.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not just deaths for the sake of, oh, we just need to kill our characters. They're a lot of times their deaths actually mean something. Well, a couple of them maybe not, but their deaths actually have meaning to them.
Okay. Colton?
So, would you say that this is one of those movies where it's we know the premise is silly, so we're gonna have fun with it, or would you say this felt like a legit sort of horror kind of story?
I think it's kind of a nice balance between the two. I mean, let me just start off with saying I am a sucker for shark movies, so that might be kind of tainting this. I'm thinking my view of this, but I mean, they definitely have a lot of fun with it. I mean, there are some. LL Cool J kills one of the sharks in a pretty cool moment. So they definitely do have fun with it, but I mean, like I said, there actually is a legitimate story that they're following, and with actual stakes at the end. So I like to think that it's a nice kind of combination of a legit horror movie, and they're having fun with it. I mean, it is PG-13. No, it is R. Never mind. Cool. So yeah, it can be a legitimate horror movie, because it's harder to say that about PG-13 horror movies.
Cool.
Eric?
Well, Colton, your answer to Colton's question kind of fulfilled all my questions I was mainly going to ask. Like, is this something like you just liked it because you were big in shark movies, or I'm trying to think of another question, because Colton's question is pretty similar to what mine was. So, could you do your question, Paul, and then come back to me?
All right. So Mike, the other question I'm going to ask you, and when you brought up like Deep Blue Sea as your guilty pleasure, I couldn't help but think of another well-known shark movie that was basically made to be a guilty pleasure movie, and that is the iconic Sharknado. Given the corny effects and the fact that sci-fi keeps pumping these out year after year, what, in your opinion, makes Deep Blue Sea a better guilty pleasure movie than the shark movie that was basically made to be a guilty pleasure movie?
Quality acting. You can't find that in any of the Sharknado movies, and that's on purpose. I'm pretty sure as soon as they're given the script and in big red letters it says "overact like hell." I mean, I've seen the first Sharknado. That was all I needed to see. You have a guy jump into a shark and chainsaw his way out. You have people in their cars on the highway, which is being flooded, and you see sharks swimming on either side of their cars, and they're just sitting there with their wheels. No. I mean, there's that one is just, it's cheesy, and it's meant to be cheesy. This one is not meant to be cheesy. This one's meant to be a legit horror movie that they're like, you know what? We can have fun with this. You can enjoy parts of it. It's still, we got a little wink wink in there, but there's wink wink, and then there's, hey, look, wink wink, which is Sharknado. I really have, I've got no respect for Sharknado movies.
Those movies annoy me to no end. How they're made to be bad. It just.
Yeah, isn't that the point of a guilty pleasure movie? Like I thought that was the point.
No.
The point of a guilty pleasure movie is like, yeah, we know it's bad, but like we like it. Like Sharknado, like there's no
like it has some redeeming qualities to it that you can find enjoyment in.
Sharknado isn't designed to be a comedy with horror. It's comedy with horror elements. It's the whole thing is designed to be wink wink. We know.
Yeah, you can't.
Okay, look at that. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, you can't overlook Sharknado because it's made to be bad. Like, guilty pleasures, like, yeah, they have bad stuff, but they also have good stuff, and you could overlook it. But Sharknado, it's made to be a guilty pleasure, and that makes it not a.
It's made to be terrible, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sharknado 2 is good, though. The rest are.
Okay, I actually do know my question now. So.
Okay, go ahead.
I know that There are a lot of like really badly made cash grab shark movies like Sharknado, like Angry Video Game Nerd did a top 50 of them at one point. And it's like, what do you? I had a question. Oh yes, and I often see like Deep Blue Sea thrown in amongst them. What do you think makes people view Deep Blue Sea like in that way that you actually find enjoyable? Like, what do you think makes people like view it as a bad movie, but you actually think they're good elements?
Well, I think see, when people make up those lists of all like those, like the Sharknadoes and the Piranha, Jaws 3, Jaws 4, I mean, those are just straight up bad movies.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I mean, it's it's not, it's not Casablanca, it's not Citizen Kane, it's not Gone with the Wind. It's nothing like that. There's no epic scope to it. But for a shark movie, in the lines of like Jaws, this is actually, it's pretty solid. The acting, I mean, nobody's going to win an acting Academy Award for it, but they play it straight, and they do the best that they can with what they got. I mean, I guess that's what kind of separates this from something like Sharknado, where they're told to overact. They're not trying to do the best they have with what they got. They're just trying to, isn't this funny? Whereas this is like, like they spend like the first like maybe half hour or so getting you to introduce to all these characters, and even like spoilers. Samuel L. Jackson's character gets eaten by a shark in the most hilarious moment possible. It's shocking. It makes you jump, but it's really cool. But see, even as he gets killed off pretty early in the film, but midway through, I'd say, you get enough of this character to know why he was there and to get a little bit of his backstory. So when he does get killed, it's a pretty shocking moment. Yeah, it's like, whoa, I did not see that coming. It's goofy fun, but it's a shock as well. And you learn enough about these characters, like the lead scientist woman. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but there is enough of a character development in her that when you get to the ending and you see what she goes through, there is legitimate connection with the characters. There's nothing like that in like Sharknado. The characters are just throwaways. This one, I think they are legit.
Okay, and if people like share thoughts about this movie in negative light, do you think people try to compare this movie a bit too much to Jaws? It's like you were saying, like Jaws, like it's not gonna be like you were saying, it's Citizen Kane or anything like that. It's not gonna win any Oscars. But do you think shark movies, Jaws is pretty much at that level? Do you think
I would say, as far as shark movies go, Jaws is the Citizen Kane, it's the Casablanca, it's the number one. This one, I would say it's striving to be like on that level. I mean, obviously, it's smart sharks, which is a pretty ridiculous premise, but they do play it. I mean, the premise behind Jaws is pretty ridiculous as well. I mean, the shark swims in, and it just starts hunting along the coast of this island, and it's not leaving. Most sharks, they swim in, they stay until there's no food, and then they leave. This one, it starts hunting, like, when they go out on the orca in the end, the shark is hunting them. And that's just a ridiculous concept. This one, it's got a similar ridiculous concept, but it plays up with the same level of seriousness that the Jaws did. So it's not Jaws, but it's aiming for it, and it's not that far off the mark, I think. At least for me, anyway.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, Avi, any other questions?
No.
Milton?
I have one more question. So it's the year 1999. CGI is still in its infancy. So my question is, what do you think of the effects for the sharks?
The effects for the sharks actually, it's been a couple years since I've seen this one, but for the most part, I think they hold up because they do use CGI sparingly in it. Like the scenes where it shows the actual sharks in full CG rendering are spare. You only see them maybe a couple times. Most of the time, when they can use a practical effect, they do. Like when you see like the when the shark is like coming through the flooded hallways after the guys, you just see the fin above it, which is a practical effect. That they don't go underneath the water to show you like the CGI shark. No, they only do that a couple times. So the fact that they use it sparingly and effectively, I think, with the budget, I think I like to think that CGI holds up pretty good.
I actually didn't know
Cool.
that. I really respect when movies use a lot of practical effects like that.
Don't we all? Any other questions, Eric?
Yeah, for some reason, that really would have gone overboard with the CGI, I guess, since it would kind of depend on them having to CGI the sharks, I guess. But yeah, this kind of makes you want me to take a look at the movie now, maybe.
Yeah. Then my job is done.
Yeah, Mike won, I guess.
Eric, any other questions?
Nope, no more for me.
I don't have any others either. Colton, do you have anything else?
What?
Do you have any other questions?
I know I'm good.
Alrighty then. Thank you very much, Mike. All right, I guess it is my turn. Y'all know what my pick is, so I am ready. Avi, get us started.
So, like, everyone has, I guess, a different definition of what a guilty pleasure is. There's no arguing. The definition of a guilty pleasure is something you enjoy even though you know you shouldn't or you know it's bad. There's no arguing what you enjoy. But the thing is, with Space Jam, it seems like a very, like, obvious pick. Like, it'd be like picking The Room or Batman and Robin as a guilty pleasure. So I'm just trying to figure out, I guess my question, not to, like, sound angry, I guess my question is just what makes this different? Because it is a product of the 90s, but, like, I don't see anything, like, more.
I'm afraid I'm fully understanding it. Like, what do you mean, what makes it different?
What just, I guess, I might just switch my question, but, like, what makes it different from other just guilty pleasure movies? Like, why do you like this so much, I guess, is my, a really broad question, but.
Well, first of all, I love the Looney Tunes. I love the Looney Tunes. Bugs Bunny, David. I grew up with these guys. These are my boys. They're my BFFs. I think a lot of it has to do with it. This was the first movie I ever saw where you see live action and animation mesh the way this movie does. And I was 6 years old when this movie came out. So to me, this 6-year-old boy, and I think I saw it in theaters too. I think my aunt Laura took me to see this movie with my cousin. So imagine being a 6-year-old boy seeing iconic Looney Tunes, not only in the real world and look like they belong there, but also seeing Michael Jordan, the greatest NBA player, not just of my generation, but arguably of any generation, in the Looney Tunes world. That blows your mind away. Like, whoa, how did they do that? You're 6. You don't know how special effect, how CGI works, and they did it so well that I remember seeing that's why it's sickening, because that little 6-year-old inside of you is still thinking, this is so amazing seeing the Looney Tunes in the real world. So that's a big part of it. So there's a lot of nostalgia thrown in.
Right, I can
I could understand.
I can definitely relate to that because, but I can go into that bit later. But so this is my guilty pleasure movies as well. Where's
Colton go?
Yeah.
What specifically, like outside just the Looney Tunes being there?
Eric.
What are some of your
It's
favorite
my turn.
aspects?
Eric.
Of the movie?
Yeah, we were wondering where you went.
What is it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Your
My
camera
bad.
went away.
Yeah, where did Colton
My
go?
bad.
I'm right here.
Yes, you kind of disappeared for a moment. Okay, Colton?
Okay, my question for you is, so when I watched the Nostalgia Critic's review of this movie, he said that it badly handled the Looney Tunes. So my question is, how did you think the Looney Tunes were handled in this movie? Do you think they were handled with respect and are the way we remember them all these years, or was it just not what we are used to seeing?
I don't have any problem with the way they handled the Looney Tunes. I don't really remember Doug talking about how bad they handled it. I thought they were, when I see these guys, I see the Looney Tunes. There was nothing really different about them from their golden age. I guess, but no, I thought they acted like they should.
I remember
But
Doug saying that they were loud and annoying in the movie or something like that.
could I like follow up Justin Colton's quickly?
No. Oh, well, yeah, no, I didn't really notice anything bad about the way they're treated. Yeah, Avi?
I was just gonna say I don't know if he goes in as much in his original Space Jam review, but he did an editorial on all Looney Tunes movies. I think he goes in a little more detail there.
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, you're right. I have to watch that.
Not on the original one, as I don't remember the original one, even though it was so long ago. But yeah, on his editorial on all the Looney Tunes movies, he goes more into detail.
No,
okay.
I thought they were handled fine. I remember watching like, okay, yeah, these are the Looney Tunes. Okay, so Eric, what was your question?
Oh, I actually have a different question. I think this one's a bit better, a bit more topical for Space Jam. So, I know, like all the time, there are more and more rumors about Space Jam 2 happening, and if that happens, what are the things you most want to see from it?
You know,
Same thing. It'll just be the same thing.
yeah, that's the thing. It's just going to be the same thing, and it's not going to hold the same appeal because I'll be, 20? I don't know how old. I don't know when this movie's going to come out. I thought it was going to come out last year. I'm going to be 26. I'm not going to be that 6-year-old kid seeing this in theaters. And it
nostalgia.
It wouldn't be the first time I'm seeing live-action animation meshed together, so it wouldn't hold the same appeal.
Right, yeah. I was just curious because like in my mind, the Space Jam is like a 90s movie at its core.
Yeah,
like it is a product of its time, and I'm like, I wonder.
You can't duplicate that.
Yeah, no. I was like, I wonder. I was just yeah. That's why I was asking. I didn't know like how you would want to see like them even attempt that if they did.
They just shouldn't. I mean, it's one of those films like it's not like a holy relic. Like, how dare you try to make a sequel of it? But it's a useless gesture. I mean,
yeah.
You know, it's a product of ite time. Just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you know what they might
capitalize on LeBron James' fame. He's already the most hyped player of our time. He's got like 3 rings now. I mean, leave him alone. Stay away from it, LeBron. Just stay away. All right, Mike, you're up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this movie has plenty of cameo appearances and the guest appearances by comedic actors. What was your favorite?
Oh, I mean, Bill Murray. I mean, I love Bill Murray, so I mean,
I kind of thought you'd go with.
No, I love it. Someone like Bill Murray wanted to play in the NBA. Why? Why do you want to play in the NBA, Bill? Like, you don't really explain that. And I love how not just empty, but then Larry Bird just start ripping this guy like. I especially love the the one scene while Larry's playing golf, MJ and Bill are talking, and Bill's asking, "Why do you think it's because I'm white?" And MJ, "Larry's white. He's white. Larry's not white. He's tan." I don't know why that just makes me laugh. That's such a funny line.
You know why I always like that cameo? One thing I never understood is that when Bill Murray shows up, the leader of the alien says, "Hey, I didn't know Dan Aykroyd was in this picture." I'm like, that's not Dan Aykroyd.
Because they're both Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Well, was that just the point, or?
Well,
it could be like connected to the hip.
Oh yeah.
Plus, Dan Aykroyd plays kind of the version of Bill Murray's character in Caddyshack 2.
Oh.
From Caddyshack 1.
There was a Caddyshack 2?
Yeah, it wasn't good at all. But Bill Murray is the groundskeeper in Caddyshack 1. In Caddyshack 2, Dan Aykroyd is the groundskeeper because Bill Murray looked at the script and was like, I'm not doing this shit.
But he did do Space Jam. Remember, he did do Space Jam.
Well, he did a good job in Space Jam for what he was there for.
Yeah. I mean, if you looked at how crazy popular like those NBA and Looney Tunes advertisements were before they made Space Jam, it's like, yes, big properties. I'll join in this.
Yeah.
They probably gave like a huge paycheck because they knew they could afford it.
Yeah.
All right, Avi, did you have another question?
Yeah, my main question will be, I want to see how you do it. Defend Lola Bunny. Does she have a character above? Oh, she's pretty. Because in the new Looney Tunes show, she's amazing.
So I've heard. I mean, I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
She's a maniac there.
But defend her in this movie. What was her character? Paul, what was her character?
She was voiced by Phil and Lil. I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. She was also
Is that a
voiced by
character?
Princess Sally too. So I mean,
Is that a
you can't go
character?
wrong with that. The actor is pretty good, so I mean, you can't go wrong with that. I'll support anything that actress does. I love her voice. So there you go. That's what I got.
Okay, so she's
I
not
felt
a
like Lolo was
character.
meant, it felt like Lolo was meant to just be one of those characters where it's
A
like,
token chick. Who
yeah, she was the token character,
Nobody
but
calls her a girl bunny in the movie. She's like, oh, pass it to girl bunny, because that's what she is.
just meant to be like, get the furries all horny and whatnot.
Yeah.
it would have been funnier if
Before that was even a
Lolo
thing.
was like. It's like it would have been funnier. Lola, I've seen the thing about Lola is that I've seen her in like other media, like the Looney Tunes show, and she even had her own brief comic book series for a while, and it showed that she could be funny. Like she wasn't just she could be treated as more than just the
token
I don't know
sex.
thugs as love interest or whatever. It
Yeah.
would have been more. I would have liked to. She probably would have gotten by better if they gave her more funny things to do rather than her being sort of the straight lady to the Looney Tunes and everything. Outside of that one instance where Bugs kisses her, she has a wild take to it, sort of. It felt like she was trying to replicate, I don't know, Jessica Rabbit or something like that, where it's like, hey, we don't realize she could be loony until like one scene. She's like only loony in one scene, and that's about it. Only it was funnier in Jessica's case, but yeah.
And remember, Space Jam had 4 writers. One of them could have said something.
Alas.
Avi, look, here's the thing you need to understand about Space Jam, okay? Next time you watch this film, don't watch it as if it's a movie. Watch it as if it's a 90-minute commercial, because that's essentially what it is. I mean, and to give you a perfect example, the scene where MJ's in his hotel room, Wayne Knight comes in, like, come on, Michael, it's game time. Get your canes on, lace up your Nikes, grab your weeds and your Gatorade, and pick up a Big Mac on the way to the ballpark. 5 different advertisements for 5 different companies in the span of, 5 seconds?
It's so
This is not a movie. This is a 90-minute commercial.
Right.
But it's the greatest 90-minute commercial ever made.
I mean,
okay?
isn't this
So
hangout on the best guilty pleasure movies?
And you'll be fine.
But this hangout's on the best guilty
That's why
pleasure
it is.
movies.
That's why it is. That's why it's the greatest guilty pleasure
Okay.
movie, because it's not a movie. It's a 90-minute commercial, and it's just done so well.
Hmm.
Okay, Colton, did you have another question?
Yeah. Michael Jordan, did you like him in this movie or not?
It's honestly fine.
I mean, I don't think I'm going to line up to see his next motion picture, but I mean, they brought him in to be the straight man in a world of pure insanity, and from that standpoint, yeah, he did his job.
Yeah.
He's like, where the fuck am I? So he's like, he was us in this world. Like, huh? So I mean, from that standpoint, yeah, he was fine. I mean, he's not going to win any awards anytime soon outside of like MVP and NBA championship, but I mean, he did for what he was supposed to do. He did his job.
Okay, it's like,
You can't really ask anything more of him than that.
whenever I see people criticize this movie, they will always say that Michael Jordan's psyched or whatever. I'm thinking he wasn't. Yeah, it's like you said, he wasn't there to like give a Oscar-winning performance or anything. It was just meant to be the straight man, and he reacted about as. I mean, sure, he might be a little
Natural as you can get.
He might be a little
Yeah.
straight for a person in a world full of Looney Tunes, but it was still good enough that I didn't think, "What the hell are you doing here, Michael Jordan?" I'd say.
He was playing off of Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd. I don't think he's going to win an Academy Award. But I do think he did a better job in that one than Brendan Fraser did in that other Looney Tunes movie.
I honestly think
Back
Back in
in
Action's a
Action.
better movie than Space Jam. Like a better, it understood.
Well, that one they at least
Not-
tried
didn't have
so
the-
much.
That was at least trying to be a movie. This wasn't.
Oh, so that makes it
Yeah, well,
better.
but actually, that is actually like that was my number 2 pick for guilty pleasures for this. So,
What, Space Jam?
oh no, Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
So
I haven't seen it in a while. I don't know if
Which I
I've even
also have.
seen it all the way through.
yes.
All right. Eric, do you have another question?
So obviously, I know, like you were saying, one of the things you really loved about it was when you were a child, and you first saw all this stuff kind of together. And you kind of answered this question when you answered obvious, but if I didn't have this nostalgia, and like I am my 21-year-old self, and I just go to watch this movie for the first time, do you think there are things that I could enjoy in this movie? And there's one specific thing I'm gonna wait to hear from you, so I hope.
You will love the soundtrack.
Yes.
The soundtrack to this movie kicks ass, and it has aged so much better than the movie itself. So
that is exactly
I would say
what
watch it just to soak in all those amazing tunes, especially Seal's cover of "Fly Like an Eagle" and R. Kelly's "I Believe I Can Fly," both of which I have on my iPhone, by the way. So yeah, I would say just watch it for the kick-ass soundtrack.
I believe I can touch the sky. Think
Oh, and the
about it
main
every
theme, though,
night
the
and
main
day.
theme.
Spread my wings. Wait, we're gonna have a copyright violation probably if I sing that song.
I don't think if we sing it, I think it's fine.
So yeah, you love the
They only
soundtrack.
look for the actual clip.
And then, I mean, if you like the Looney Tunes, or I suppose if you love the Looney Tunes, you'll at least find some enjoyment out of it. I mean, they're at least acting like themselves. And considering at least half this movie, unlike Back in Action, where a good chunk of this movie, at least half it, is spent in the animated world, which, to their credit, that's where they belong. I think you get some kicks out of it.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, mainly the soundtrack.
Oh yeah. No, I do. Like I have seen this movie several times and I love it. I was just curious for a hypothetical. But yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Okay, perfect.
That's your answer. Mike, did you have another question?
Yeah. Can you complete these lyrics? Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. We got a real jam going down, go.
Welcome to the Space Jam Space. Yeah, of course I know that one. Come on. Who doesn't? One of the greatest movie themes ever.
Of course.
Yeah, that was my question. I just
Not gonna lie, I had it in the background while we were talking.
I just feel like jamming down.
So yeah, watch it for the soundtrack, people. If nothing else, you're gonna love that. Okay. Avi, any other questions?
And not really, but I will say if they were to do a sequel, it would probably just be pure 2010s. Like, I bet you LeBron James would start playing with like a fidget spinner or something, or
Please.
it probably would just be pure like this decade.
Yeah, so it would hold nothing to the people who grew up with the original. Okay.
Oh
Yeah, but it would create a new audience.
Colton, anything else?
Yeah, one last question. What would you say was the funniest moment in this entire movie?
Funny. Oh, geez. Oh, wow. Damn. I don't know. I really have to think about that one for all, because there's really no like one. I don't think there's any really like one particular moment that stands out like, oh my, I'm just laughing my rear end off. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that one. There's really nothing that stands out. I really have to think about that.
All right, well, let's say if I had a favorite, if I had a maybe most funniest moments in the movie, it might be towards the end where the aliens, after they give them back the talent, they say, "Hey, Bugs, we don't want to go back to Morrow Mountain. Can we stay with you?" And the Bug says, "I'm not sure if you guys are loony enough." And then the aliens are like, "Loony enough!"
That's us. Yeah, that was pretty funny. That was. I'll admit it. All right. Yeah. You know what? I'll see if I can answer that question next week. Eric, did you have anything else?
Nope. Pretty much answered every question I had.
Okay, Mike.
Nah, I'm good.
All right, guys. So with that said, that is going to wrap up episode 115 of our show. This is definitely a lot of fun. I'd like to thank all of you for watching. Avi, it was a pleasure having you back here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mike, Colton, it was a pleasure having you here as well.
Pleasure as always.
Good to be around. I really like this show.
And Eric, we are so appreciative that you finally got around to joining us again. It's been like, what, a year since you last was here?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. Hopefully my schedule's going to be opening up a lot more now that I'm going to have a set school schedule. I'm not going to have randomized work times, and I'm going to be in my own apartment, so I can more control my own schedule. So I'll aim to
Right.
back on the show.
All right, guys. So thank you very much for watching. We'll see you back here next week. Until then, have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.